Okay folks, in this video we are taking a look at Autodesk Mesh Mixer. And depending on which version you have, the interface may look a little bit different here or there, but don't worry, they've made it pretty straightforward and they're going to make it pretty intuitive. So to give you the quick background, Mesh Mixer is designed to allow you to manipulate STL, PLY, OBJ, all kinds of file formats that are typically exported from scanners or design software. They're typically supposed to be the files that represent your print but are no longer actual design files, meaning that you can't manipulate them, you can't re-extrude or anything of that. And they bring them into Mesh Mixer so that you can manipulate in sort of a different fashion. For example, we'll be able to treat things like clay and pull and stretch and scale and even add support material and all sorts of neat little things. So to kind of get started, we're going to take a look at the interface real quickly here. Obviously your typical file, help, feedback, you don't need the help and feedback for the time being. But your bar here with your basic features, you've got an import button, an open button, import a buddy, import a sphere, import a plane, and keyboard shortcuts are all right here. Now what's it mean by import and what's it mean by open? Well, essentially if you already have an STL file of some type, you can bring it into this program. If you don't have one, they can let you get started with your own kind of stuff. So for example, I can hit the bunny, or I can hit the sphere, or I can hit the import, and it's going to ask me, hey, do you have a file that you want to pick out and bring in? And I don't really have one. Same thing's kind of true with the open feature here. But let's just go ahead and take a look before we worry too much about our files and play a little bit with what they have available. So I'm just going to import a sphere, and here we go. Now essentially what this sphere is it's not like a sphere that we might create with one of our modeling programs. It's a sphere that is essentially just an outside STL file. It's the tesseled kind of creation that would result in us actually designing a sphere. And you see the sphere is located on a work plane, and I'm manipulating the work plane around. Actually, I'm orbiting is what I'm doing. And the cool thing is a lot of the normal features still apply. For example, if you roll your mouse, hit the roller button, you roll it towards something in the back, you zoom in, zoom out. If you right click and hold, you can orbit. Of course, you can't really tell much of an orbit since it's a sphere. And of course, you push down your pan button, you can also, or push down your roller button, you can actually pan around. So these are very similar orbiting tools and view tools that we see in a lot of our other design software. So kind of keep that in mind that that's all the same. It's kind of universal to some extent. Now, let's see what we can do about having some fun. By the way, if you haven't actually installed the software and you're just watching this video, you need to go ahead and pause the video and go get Autodesk Mesh Mixer. You can find the software pretty easily. Just go to Google, and I'll just demonstrate real quick for you. Just go to Google and search Autodesk Mesh Mixer. In fact, it'll pull it up for you. There it goes. Takes you right to their website, or even better yet, the download page. And you choose what you need. Now most of you will be downloading the Windows 64-bit, not the 32-bit, unless you're still running an XP or something even older. Or if you're running a Mac, there you go there. But you need to go ahead and download and install the software before continuing on with the video. Okay? Go ahead and do that now. Alright, making the assumption that you've got that taken care of, we're back in Mesh Mixer. And I may mispronounce that multiple times. It's just the way things go with me. I have a hard time. For me, it's like a tongue twister. Anyway, once you have the program, you can go ahead and do what I did. You just imported a sphere. And let's take a look at some of the tools that we have. First of all, we can import again. And it says you can append the imported mesh to current mesh or replace the current mesh. This essentially means, are you wanting to bring in a new file or are you wanting to combine files? Well, right now, we don't need to worry about that. We're not going to combine any files. And what I mean by it, we can actually combine STL. So, for example, I had an STL of a cylinder or an STL of a part I designed. I can bring it in this same workspace, and I can have a sphere and a cylinder, and which will eventually be one part. But I can also choose this button, the Mesh Mix. Now, this is pretty cool. This allows you to select more creations to add to your current creation. So for example, this sphere, even though it was imported from Mesh Mixer, if it was my own, I could add more features to it. For example, I could add a tube to it. And it's going to process a little bit. Whoops, clicked off there. After it's kind of ready to go, then you just click and drag over, and you can release right there. Now, notice that the sphere, or I'm sorry, the donut here is a different color. It has a different feature, and it's actually, when I grab that little middle point, it's actually moving around the sphere. It's like an addition to the sphere. I can grab this feature. I should be able to grab that feature. There we go. And I can turn this feature. So there's still two entities. I can also change the size with my slider buttons here, and I can change some offsets to actually pull it in or pull it out of my sphere. Keep in mind, it's almost like Mesh Mixer treats your original creation like a piece of clay, and everything that you do beyond that is based on you doing it to that original model. Adding clay, adding features, that kind of thing. So, let's go ahead and pause the video and essentially do what I've done. Go add a donut, size it a little bit differently, and add it to your sphere. Pause the video and do that now. Excellent. Now, once you've had a little fun in creating some kind of extra features here, you can go ahead and accept your creation and see what you can do with it. Now, there's many other things we can work with. We can first of all grab that little ball and kind of orbit it around a little bit, or I should say rotate, because it's not really an orbit. And we can do more things. I can hit accept. Now, look what's happened. At this point in time, the donut has become part of my new model. So I'm going to do another one just for fun. Drag it over here, release, maybe size it a bit more with my radius, maybe move it around a little bit, the offset, pull it in some. I'm going to kind of look at the other one at the same time to kind of get a good feel, and maybe increase the radius just a hair, bring in some more, and then maybe, just maybe, have a little fun with my rotation features. Accept. Alright, starting to get like a little character's head here. How about that? Pretty cool, huh? Again, it's like clay, it's like animation, so keep that in mind. I'm going to hit another tool, and let's see what I can do with the cylinder. So click the cylinder, add it on there. Yep, a little bit too big for me. Going to bring it down in size, going to offset it in some. Maybe point it down a little bit. And the best thing about this software is just getting the hang of it, just kind of learning to play around with it and getting a feel for, hey, pretty cool, huh? How about that? Two donuts and a nose. Now, the cool thing about Mesh Mixer is, yes, you can bring these things, but you can bring your own stuff in too. For example, we can slap a bunny right in on top of this object if we wanted to, and I did that, and I don't mean to, so I'm going to hit undo for that one. Or I could bring in my own features. And let's see here. Ooh, sections. Now, admittedly, I don't have Mesh Mixer down a whole lot because they keep adding in, or I should say, in terms of like infinite knowledge here, because they keep bringing in new and cool features. And chances are they've got some features since the recording of this video. But typically, they are pretty intuitive and you can get the hang of it. Now, one of the things that is really awesome about Mesh Mixer, and whether you're using your own creation or something that's already there, is the ability to sculpt. Let's take a look at the sculpt feature here. Now, there's so many tools to use and take advantage of this program. We don't have time to cover them all, but I'm going to give you the introduction so that you can. Plus, you can always YouTube it because there's tons of tutorials on this stuff. Now, first of all, I want to draw your attention to the top. You've got a choice between volume and surface. And how this affects, we're going to use the volume because we want to affect that. And you've got a flyout menu here on brushes to show all the different types of brushes available to you. Tons of them indeed. Paint brushes, which literally can result in painting objects. We've got the ability to drag and draw to and move and spikes and all kinds of things. And you're thinking, well, what do these things do? And what's this strength and size and depth over here? Well, again, I keep saying this is like clay, so check it out. I'm going to pan over a little bit, and we'll select the drag button. And you notice my cursor has like this kind of halo effect there. And if I adjust the strength value, nothing really changes, but if I adjust the size value, it gets bigger or smaller. It's like the size of my brush is increasing, which it is. Depth, well, you'll see what that is here in a second. Strength is how much impact I'm going to have. And let me show you kind of what I mean. This tool, this drag brush right here, is essentially going to be like me grabbing a hold of this feature and doing this. See that? You see it forming a little bit of hair or a little bit of a pinch on the top of my creation. See that? Again, it's like clay. Now, what does that do? If I adjust the strength value, I get more of a pull. For example, I can pull in, I can pull out, and it's trying to interpret my motion because technically I'm dealing with a 2D screen, but it's trying to interpret what I'm trying to do in a 3D space. Apparently what I'm trying to do is give my character some crazy stretchy hair out the back. Woo! Just like if I were handling the character as if it were clay. Now, hopefully for a moment or two, you're starting to get the realization this is a really cool piece of software. You can design anything in a modeling package, a typical modeling package, like 123D Design, Inventor, what have you, and then you can bring it into here and then really make it lifelike, tweak it out, what other kind of things you want to do. Really, whoops, don't want to do that one. By the way, you can always hit Control-Z on your keyboard and undo your changes. Okay? Well, here's what I want you to do. I've gotten pretty far in my creation. I want you to pause the video and essentially recreate what I've done before we continue. Pause the video and do that now. Awesome. Alright, so you've got the brushes figured out. You've probably gotten used to the orbiting around. And the first thing is to realize you need to keep this kind of stuff simple. You don't want to overdo it. And overdoing it can really screw up models and kind of overwhelm us in terms of what we're trying to do at the very beginning of this lesson. So we're kind of seeing this. We're pulling things out. You know what? I might want to change my brush a little bit. So I'm going to choose my brush to do more of a inflation. Maybe fill this hole in a little bit. So I just click and hold and look what it's doing. It's kind of filling that gap in, which is cool. And that may be what I'm going for. It may not. It may be something you have to kind of work with, because the fact is Mesh Mixer is a clay-like program, but it's trying to interpret what you're wanting. It's not real easy sometimes. So there's a lot of different tools that accomplish a lot of different tasks. For example, we use Mesh Mixer a lot when we do a scan of someone, a body scan or a face scan, to come in and kind of streamline, tweak, all kinds of little things like that. So, great little program. Now let's take a look at what the pinch does. Well, probably does what we think it does. It pinches. It pinches and pulls. And not so much pull as it just pinches and squeezes in. Doesn't really necessarily pull out. It can, but it's a little bit tricky to work with. So it's a shaping tool. And then one that I use a lot is the shrink smooth or the bubble smooth. We use this a lot when we're trying to kind of smooth out models that we have scanned in and done features like that. So, neat little procedure here. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a little time, pause the video, and I want you to go through all of these different tools right here. Don't worry about the paint vertex right now because we're not really going to be painting for a while. So I want you just to try a few of these and get the hang of your creation. Go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Alright, now another thing I want you to make sure that you do is you practice with the strength, size, and depth features. And you know, the laziness is kind of cool. Again, we're not going to cross all of these bridges with all these tools, but let's see here, size these back. I want you to become familiar with it. You know, how to add some life to creations using these different tools and making adjustments. Because one of the projects that we'll do will probably involve taking a scan of someone and making it a better scan, or dressing them up. My character here is apparently going to get a little bit of acne, got a little acne problem, so I'm going to kind of pop that around a little bit. And maybe if I decide, well, that's a little bit too much, I can always come back and smooth him out. Maybe increase my strength a little bit, my size a lot, and there we go. See that? It's hard to see sometimes probably from the screen of a recording, but it's happening. So great tools. Now there is a ton of different features. For example, we can even adjust the fall off on how these kind of things work. If you get more of a pinching effect, a more pointed effect. So really just too many tools to go through, and they are pretty intuitive to work with. So I'll kind of let you have some fun with that. So go ahead and pause the video again. Make sure that you've played with some of those tools. Try a few more little adjustments to your creation, and we'll pick up from there. Excellent. So you've played around a little bit, you've kind of seen what we've got going on, you've got your color feature here, and you know, why not? Let's have a little fun with that. Let's go ahead and go switch to a color and see what happens. Oh, yep, how about that? Isn't that cool? We can color our creation. Now keep in mind, if you have access to a 3D printer that does color, you will have the ability to produce color. A little bit wide here. There we go. And it will actually color the print based on the data you have. It's a little bit trickier than one would think in terms of getting the exact colors to match up, but the technology is getting better and better, and over time it's going to be awesome. For the most part for this course, we won't do, really any significant color printing itself because it's usually pretty expensive, but you never know. Maybe we can figure something out. But regardless if it's colored or not, we can still print the model. So this is your chance to have a real lot of fun with your creation and color it and make it your very own, make it awesome. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video and add a little color. Switch your brushes to hang on, here we go, a paint vertices, a vertex, change the color to whatever you want to, and go ahead and start doing some coloring there. Pause the video and do that now. Awesome. Now, let's say that you want to do a little bit more creation, that you want to have a little bit more neat, cool features to your object. Let's say that we want to add some, some legs. So I'm going to switch my brush, going to turn, we'll leave that back there. And, whoops. I'm going to switch my brush to a drag, increase my size a bit, and my strength's fine. And I'm going to add some legs. Watch this. I'm going to get my cursor down in here low, and I'm going to click and pull. And I'm going to click and pull. I'm going to click, pull, click, and pull. Now the problem is I may or may not have brought them out to the same point, which is something that I may have to consider later on. But at least my head now has some legs. It might need an extra leg here. Why not just create another one? We can. Make him kind of like one of those little, ghosts off of Pac-Man back in the day. Or a really, really disturbing piggy bank. Anyway, you've got a creation here. I want you to pause the video and go add some legs. Make sure you increase your strength and size on your brush, and that you use your drag tool to pull it out. Now the drags and other ones do this, but we're just kind of stay together. It usually helps out. Go ahead and pause the video and kind of do what I've done. Alright, so cool. We've created our crazy little guy, got some crazy little legs on our little guy, got some crazy little hair, and had some fun. So what I want you to do to kind of finish up, we'll stop the video on this one. I want you to go ahead and kind of finish up by just having a few more creations. Don't get too crazy, and make sure that you don't make a lot of thin things. For example, if you do a low strength, low size component, maybe high strength, low size, and you create something like this, see that little needle sticking out? Yeah, that looks cool on our model, but the fact is that's not going to print, and we don't need to worry about things that we're not going to be able to print. So I'm going to undo those, hitting Control Z and get those back out. So don't do little stuff like that. Stay to kind of big creations, but I want you to maybe add on a mouth or something to your creation, make it look cool, and have a little fun, but keep it sizable. Alright? Well, we'll see you next time. Have some fun.